guys! Today we'll be recapping a story called I Was Seduced by the Sick Male Lead. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Enjoy! Most people don't remember memories from their past life, but not. Hearing the sound of a crying baby becomes a catalyst in awakening Evelyn Monstera's past memories of being a preschool teacher. In her past life, she was born into poverty with little to no means. Due to overwork, she succumbed to overfatigue and lost her life. Now, she's reborn into a wealthy family, but there's a twist. She's now a character in a novel. Evelyn isn't the female lead in this story. In fact, she's a villainess who ruins the female and male lead's romance early on in the story. Oh, that's actually even more interesting than being cliché. Fearing to meet the same fate as her character, Evelyn dreads the coming of Cassis Uricola, the male lead. When he comes, her character is to be punished for always bothering the female lead. As she recalls what the male lead does to her, she immediately frets. She doesn't want to be stripped off of her cozy life right now. The male lead is sure to put her family in poverty. Evelyn vows to make her fate different. She's already at an advantage for knowing the plot, so she'd make sure not to follow it accordingly. How hard can it be? Despite her best efforts to live differently, her plans are still foiled when her mother announces that Cassis will be visiting them soon. LOL. It was almost as if life said, nope, not getting what you want today. And not just visiting, but he will be staying and living with them as their guest. The following day, Elisa Boheme, the female lead, visits Evelyn for a playdate. Her character used to mistreat Elisa, but this time she's putting it to an end. As Elisa visits her and plays with her, Evelyn treats her well and becomes her true friend. As they become closer, she makes sure to pair Elisa and Cassis together in the future. That way, her fate of being punished for ruining their romance would be void. By the end of their playdate, Elisa declares that Evelyn is now her favorite. Mission accomplished. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to Evelyn, Cassis is about to arrive at their residence. In the morning, the Monstera family gather at their residential grounds to meet Cassis' arrival. When Evelyn sees him, she remembers his character background from the novel. Sickly during childhood, but a manly beast as an adult. Wow, what a hunk of a man he becomes! Cassis interacts with Evelyn's mother first, but as soon as he's through, he turns to Evelyn next. Initially, she thinks his gaze is off, but all of those feelings dissipate when both introduce each other. Unexpected on Evelyn's part, but Cassis actually wants to get along well with her. The next morning, she snoops around near Cassis' room, but suddenly, one of the palace staff, Paul, catches her red-handed. In an attempt to divert Paul's attention, she suggests a game of hide-and-seek. She hides in the library, but is shocked to see Cassis also in the premises. Not wanting to be seen, she tries to evade him. However, as she crawls away, he catches her red-handed. She, on the other hand, is too focused on her game of hide-and-seek. She quickly pulls him to the side so that Paul doesn't find her. In a turn of events, Evelyn ends up leaning her whole weight on Cassis. Ew, it's almost as if they're hugging now! As she realizes this, she pushes him away, albeit not intentionally. Due to this little misunderstanding, he ends up scolding Evelyn, even to the point of saying her behavior is why he doesn't like kids. Oh, Cassis, you're a kid yourself too! However, his mood immediately shifts from disdain to cheerful when Paul walks in and catches both of them. Moments ago, he was berating Evelyn, but now he seemed to be doting on her and treating her nicely. Is he trying to please people? As he makes his leave, only a shocked expression shows itself on Evelyn's face. Nothing is more confusing to her than Cassis' quick mood shift. No matter how she thinks of it, Evelyn can only conclude that Cassis really does hate her. She reflects on their earlier interactions. The seemingly off gaze during their first meeting, the whole incident at the library. Everything just screams hate. An interruption in her thoughts occurs when Elisa walks past and asks her what's wrong. Still zoned out, Evelyn asks Elisa if she's ever had experience being hated for no reason. Hearing this, her friend immediately deduces that their new guest, Cassis himself, must be bothering Evelyn. Thankfully, Elisa doesn't linger on their earlier discussion. How troublesome would it be if she were to get mad at Cassis over Evelyn? It seems like Evelyn almost always manages to hinder the romance between Elisa and Cassis. How will she ever escape the original plot? I guess there's really no escaping fate, huh? As the days go by, Evelyn makes the effort of getting to know more about Cassis. He seemed to be an introvert who rarely goes out, always in the garden or at the library. This puzzles her because in the original storyline of the novel, Cassis was always going out. Later on, Evelyn joins her mother in the garden for some tea. As they enjoy each other's company, her mother tells her of the mental illness Cassis struggles with. Turns out, Cassis suffers from mana's loss of sensation, a disease that sucks mana from the air. The disease itself poses double-edged effects on him. If he tries hard, he could wield infinite mana, but on the other hand, he could also die in excruciating death. Oh no, that must be terrible for a child to endure. As Evelyn's mother recounts all this, she hangs an idea that Evelyn can make him feel better. With that, she orchestrates a situation that leaves Evelyn with no choice but to interact with Cassis. Being sent off to Cassis's room with the accompaniment of the maid, Evelyn has no choice but to go along with her mother's antics. Upon reaching his room, Cassis is ever so friendly to Evelyn, even quickly agreeing to dine and eat cake with her. However, as soon as the two are left alone, he shows disinterest and dislike for her once more. Be friends already, will you? Despite his indifference, she still regards him and holds no contempt for him. After a while, the two interact openly, even if it includes arguments, mean stares, and denials. I guess that's one way to start their friendship. Away from everyone else, in the dead of night, the Count travels from afar to meet his daughter. His longing to meet her seems to be dire, but what is that egg he carries with him? The Count arrives at Montes, the residence where Evelyn and Cassis are currently staying at. As soon as he arrives, he immediately greets his daughter Evelyn with excitement. That night during dinner, the Count asks Cassis how he's doing while staying at their residence. Without missing a beat, Cassis replies that he's adapting very well. It's true, though. He really is doing well for someone who's in a new environment. As the Monstera family interact during dinner, Cassis can't help but observe their closeness. He almost looks like he's pained to see how much they dote on Evelyn. Could it be that he isn't close to his own family? Over the course of dinner, the Count announces that it is only fitting to throw a welcoming party for Cassis's arrival at Montes. Although Cassis does not protest, Evelyn thinks his facial expression says otherwise. It's either he's a people pleaser or he doesn't have the heart to decline. A lot of nobles grace the welcoming party with their presence. When Evelyn roams around, she notices Cassis with the adults. However, he looks like he isn't enjoying their company. Taking matters into her own hands, she rescues him from the adults and takes him over to where the rest of the kids their age are. When they are finally out of sight from people's view, he forcibly pulls his hand away from Evelyn's hold. What will he ever do with her? Can't she take a hint that physical contact isn't his cup of tea? After a while, the two finally arrive at where the noble children are. Upon arriving, everyone greets and interacts with him welcomely and wholeheartedly. Seeing this, Evelyn is at ease, but her mood changes when Luna Vanessa appears. In the original novel, Luna and Evelyn are close friends. However, right now, Evelyn chooses to stay away from her. Not just because she's avoiding the original plot, but also because Luna is actually a foul person underneath the good girl facade. She sounds more of a villainess than Evelyn in the original plot. The rest of the night, Luna crowds around Cassis, starting conversations here and there. He entertains her openly, replying to her with enthusiasm. But there's a saying that one must never overstay their welcome, and that's exactly what Luna did. Although Cassis seems like he's holding their conversation pretty well, his mood shifts to a freezing cold personality when Luna mentions attending his birthday party last year. That gaze was cold. I felt like it was in the Arctic. Despite her best efforts of recounting the events, Cassis coldly interjects he remembers nothing about the said event. His cold demeanor cuts through Luna, and she becomes teary-eyed. Seeing these events unfold before her eyes, Evelyn could only wonder what was wrong with Cassis now. Luna runs out in the pretense of wanting some fresh air, but Evelyn knows all too well that she needed time to collect herself after the whole incident with Cassis. I mean, I would too if I was stared with dagger eyes and cold gazes. Suddenly, a voice calls out to Evelyn from the room entrance. Turns out, it's Elisa, who has been looking for her for a while now. When Elisa enters the room, Cassis also happens to be nearby. Seeing both of them in her direct line of sight, Evelyn realizes something. This would be the first meeting between Elisa and Cassis, the main characters. Determined, she expresses to herself that she had become a bridge for the two to spark their romance. Life seems to have a funny way of proving Evelyn wrong, because as soon as she introduces Elisa and Cassis to each other, the opposite of romance begins to unfold. Finally meeting Cassis, Elisa immediately calls him out for hurting her friend. What? No! You guys should be getting along, not fighting! She tells him that because of him, Evelyn was sad as she felt that he hated her for no reason. Elisa just can't wrap her head around the thought of someone disliking her friend. In an attempt to save face, Cassis reassures her that it was probably just a misunderstanding. Yet again, he tries to act friendly towards Evelyn as Elisa watches. She doesn't buy his act though, as once again she calls him out for his behavior. Slay! We stand a girl boss who calls people out! Conceding, Cassis apologizes to Evelyn, noting that his actions toward her probably hurt her. But to his defense, he makes it out like it was unintentional due to him being sick those last few days. The next morning, Evelyn talks to Little Bean. When her father came back from his business trip, he had offered her a welcoming gift. It was none other than the black dragon's egg. Evelyn was more than delighted to receive it. Much more, she held out hope that maybe someday her little dragon egg would hatch. The dragon's egg looked nothing more like a little black bean to Evelyn, which is why she didn't hesitate to name him Little Bean. As expected from a child, they always make cute names for things. She converses with the egg, openly telling it that should he hatch one day, he should definitely bite Cassis for infuriating her. The next few days, Cassis begins to boss Evelyn around. Every time she refused, he would immediately display a sad look and claim that Evelyn hated him. LOL, this is him trying to get revenge. What gets on her nerves more is the fact that Cassis showers her with care whenever adults are around. Talk about two-faced. Yet whenever nobody's around, he treats her as if he is merely tolerating her. Although Evelyn hates the whole experience, she dare not let anyone think that she was mistreating and hating Cassis for being a sick little boy. One day, Evelyn pants in exhaust as she makes her way to the garden to retrieve some lilacs that Cassis wanted for his room. As soon as she arrives with the lilacs, he immediately tells her that he meant lavender. The colors merely confused him since they were similar. After the incident, Evelyn makes sure to draw the line. He certainly didn't know who he's messing with. In Evelyn's past life, she used to work with kindergarten students. This meant that dealing with children was a piece of cake for her. She knew their antics, which is why dealing with Cassis would be easy. In the later days, Cassis still continues to boss Evelyn around. However, this time, she decides to take her turn returning the favor. That day, Evelyn enthusiastically crowds around Cassis. He finds this to be a complete 360 turn, because why is she suddenly being so nice and accommodating to him? Evelyn sets her plan in motion. First, she begins to feel his temperature. At her touch, he recoils and blushes. No man, physical contact really isn't his strongest suit. Feeling him burn, she immediately calls May, the attending servant, to fetch him a cup of hot milk. Cassis wants nothing more than to bother anyone, so he declined the request made on his behalf. Upon hearing this, Evelyn starts a rouse, claiming that he wanted black tea instead of milk. She even praises him in front of May, leaving him no choice but to agree lest he face shame. Evelyn's plan is going smoothly. Of course, she knows perfectly well that Cassis hates black tea. But what could she do? This is the perfect revenge a child her age could pull. As May brings out the tea, Cassis expresses that it was to his liking. His pretending infuriates and amuses Evelyn simultaneously. As Cassis suffers with his tea, she calls his attention discreetly. Upon getting his attention, Evelyn immediately makes a face at him. Only then did Cassis realize that Evelyn put him in this situation on purpose. And that's what I call good payback. The following day, Evelyn finds Cassis walking alone. Without hesitation, she decides to annoy him more today. However, her antics are not entertained and she's immediately shot down. Jeez, he's so grumpy! Upon closer inspection, she realizes that Cassis really didn't look too well. Black under eyes, heavy eye bags, he looked drained. All of a sudden, Cassis collapses, and a look of pure shock and concern makes its way to Evelyn's face. It turns out he had been burning up due to the energy buildup over the past few days. Evelyn found it odd, though, as Paul, the servant, had said that Cassis was diligent in taking his medicine. If he did, why was he in this condition? Could it be that he spit it out afterwards so as not to take them on purpose? The thought proves to be plausible, so she inspects his things to confirm her suspicion. Lo and behold, she finds a stash of medicine in one of his trinkets. Why wouldn't he take his medicine? Is it merely because it's bitter, or is there another reason? Suddenly, Cassis stirs in his slumber. Concerned, Evelyn keeps him company. However, he starts fussing around, shedding tears, calling out for his mother, and exclaiming he was wrong. Poor guy. He has a lot of suffering under that composed exterior. He's still 12 after all. The pressure must be getting to him. Cassis continues to cry for his mother in his sleep. To put him at ease, Evelyn comforts him by whispering reassuring words and patting his forehead. Seeing him calm down, she concludes that her gesture worked well for now. At the end of the day, Cassis is still only so young. No matter how hard he tries to compose himself and acts mature, he's still a child. Realizing this, Evelyn decides that she should cut him some slack. Yeah, I really think you should, girl. As she reflects on his situation, she speculates that perhaps he's homesick. Thinking back, She tries to remember if the Duke and Duchess Urquio ever did make an appearance in the original novel. In the original novel, First Love, the Duke and Duchess never did appear. In its plot, Cassis was already the Duke when he came for Elisa. Considering that he became Duke at a youthful age, did that mean Duke Urquio passed early? If Cassis's parents weren't mentioned that much, then I guess it is possible that he lost his parents early on in the story. As Evelyn stares at Cassis sleeping, she promises not to annoy him anymore. With a genuine heart, she wishes that he'd recover from his condition. Dozing off herself, she holds his hand and stays by his bedside for the night. Aw, she really is such a sweet girl. At midnight, Cassis stirs awake from his long slumber. The earlier events refresh his memories, and he notes that he should have been more careful because now, Dr. Cliff was sent to monitor his health. When he turns to his side, he notices Evelyn, who has fallen asleep sitting next to him. It's as clear as day to him that Evelyn is raised receiving parental love. He could tell since he would know the difference, considering he's never received that much love from his mother. In the end, Cassis didn't live up to his mother's expectations. As a result, his parents abandoned him, which is why he was sent to Montes to live with the Monstera household. How cruel of his parents! Cassis lets his thoughts wander. If he passed from his illness, would his parents even cry? Or would they laugh? Because he feels like nobody cared, he intentionally didn't take his medicine. After all, nobody would care, right? But how is it that even though he did his best to conceal his pain, Evelyn is still able to see right through him? Seeing her asleep, he reflects on his actions towards her. He acknowledges that he's been mean and annoying lately, but what could he do? Evelyn's reaction to his teasing is the only thing that makes him want to live a little longer. That's so sad and wholesome at the same time. Soon enough, Evelyn awakes. Despite the early dawn, both immediately argue once more when they talk. Evelyn confronts Cassis on the medicine. No matter what his reasons are, he should still take the medicine nonetheless. Stubborn as ever, Cassis tells her that even if he did, there is still no guarantee that the medicine would heal him. I feel so sad for him right now. Hearing this, Evelyn realizes that deep down, Cassis was afraid to succumb to his illness. Evelyn could only offer him a warm smile and comfort as she reassures him he won't pass. Curious, he asks how she would know. She merely looks at him warmly and smiles as she says, "You're the protagonist." Ah! That was a wholesome interaction! In the midnight hush of Cassis's room, an ongoing dispute unfolds between the two. Evelyn, concerned for his well-being, urges him to take his medicine for a faster recovery. However, glimpses of sadness linger in Cassis's eyes, and the flicker of hope in his heart begins to dim, as if he's starting to embrace the belief that his health may never improve. Oh, poor Cassis! But you will get better, though. You have to. However, Evelyn steadfastly rejects such a grim outlook. Her nature is inherently optimistic, so as the male lead in the story, she is convinced that Cassis has the resilience to endure. Playfully, she gently taps his forehead, asserting that being a child ensures a remarkably swift natural recovery. Cassis, unfamiliar with such a comforting narrative, wraps himself in his blanket, expressing gratitude to Evelyn for lifting his spirits. Even with that blanket on, we can still see him blushing. So cute. Since that night, Cassis has constantly been taking his medicine, a development that warms Evelyn's heart. With the resolution of her concern regarding Cassis's medicine, a new challenge emerges, bringing Cassis and Elisa closer and fostering a mutual liking between them. I know it sounds biased, but I just want to rewrite the story at this point. However, when it comes to arranging a meeting between Cassis and Elisa, Evelyn realizes that there is no mutual interest between them whatsoever. Despite her efforts to set them up on a date, host a tea party, and even orchestrate casual encounters, nothing seems to work. Despite being the main characters in the story, their relationship shows no progress. Now, Evelyn feels compelled to take matters into her own hands and do something about it. As Evelyn finds herself lost in contemplation, her focus is suddenly drawn to the grand spectacle of the battle wall. The high priest at the temple extends an invitation to their family, acknowledging the substantial donation her father made to the church. Upon entering the temple, they are greeted with warmth by the priests. Before they can progress further into the church, the priest inquires about Cassis, the ailing child. It seems like they are going to pray together for his recovery. Guilt begins to manifest on his face as thoughts of him being a bother and wasting their time start to circulate in his mind. However, at that moment, Evelyn's father looks at him and smiles, expressing sentiments akin to considering Cassis as part of their family from the moment he arrived at their house. As parents, they assure him that they care for him, and he should never worry about taking up their time. While waiting for Cassis, Evelyn and her mother go inside to pray. In the midst of their prayers, Evelyn notices a child wearing a priestly attire. Intrigued, she begins to search for him, but he eludes her gaze, remaining unseen. The dining room is adorned with delicious foods, wine, and fruits, creating a festive atmosphere as they engage in lively conversation with the head priest. Among the topics is the day of Evelyn's baptism, where they recall the amusing incident when she appeared to be asleep after being immersed in the water. In the midst of the conversation, Evelyn inquires with the person in charge of the apprentices about the existence of an apprentice with yellow eyes and blue hair. A moment of stunned silence ensues, but they quickly regain composure and deny having any apprentice matching that description, although their reactions betray a hint of deception. Despite their insistence, Evelyn remains convinced of what she saw, noting that the mysterious figure dressed like a priest. The head priest intervenes, suggesting that children occasionally visit the church for a taste of the priestly experience, explaining away the discrepancy in appearance. After dinner, the head priest kindly offers the family accommodation in the sanctuary since it's already late. Adhering to the customary rules, the boys and girls are separated. Evelyn, nestled on a bed with her mom, finds herself unable to sleep. Seeking a breath of fresh air, she steps outside, only to suddenly spot someone peeking at her. The blue-haired boy from earlier! Reacting quickly, the boy dashes away, prompting Evelyn to give chase. When she catches up, the boy panics and immediately apologizes, tears streaming down his eyes. Perplexed, Evelyn wonders about the reason for his apology and questions why he refers to her as a fairy. Seated on a bench, observing the boy as he composes himself, Evelyn can't help but notice how endearing he appears, resembling an adorable puppy. The boy catches her gaze and apologizes for peering at her, referring to her as a fairy. In his eyes, she is surrounded by lights and flowers every time he sees her, creating a magical image in his perception. But in Evelyn's mind, that boy is in love with her at first sight. Who can tell the child? Just as Evelyn is about to inquire about the boy's name, an abrupt interruption occurs. Cassis appears. Before the boy can utter a word, he swiftly apologizes and hastily departs upon locking eyes with Cassis, leaving Evelyn feeling disappointed. Cassis, seemingly flustered, dons his jacket and approaches Evelyn. With a faint blush on his face, he warns her to be cautious around strangers and guides her back to her room. Aw, my boy Cassis is getting sweeter and sweeter, huh? Observing Cassis from behind, Evelyn admires how he cares for her even when it's not necessary. They walk hand in hand, and upon catching a glimpse of his ears, she notices that they are all red. A realization dawns on her. Cassis isn't accustomed to someone holding his hands. Just as she contemplates releasing his hand, Cassis surprises her by expressing that she can hold on to him if she's scared. However, Evelyn isn't holding his hand out of fear. It's something more profound, something she finds challenging to articulate aloud. He doesn't like holding hands, but he'll do it with Evelyn? That speaks a lot. Basking in the sunlight while seated in the living room, Evelyn is interrupted by the butler, who hands her an invitation. It's from Vanessa, who is hosting a party in the capital. It becomes apparent that she hasn't abandoned the idea of inviting Cassis. Quickly, Evelyn searches for Cassis, only to discover that he has also received an invitation, and as anticipated, he has no intention of attending the event. Cassis harbors an aversion to parties, a sentiment Evelyn recalls from the last time her father organized one for him. When she enthusiastically expresses her fondness for parties, Cassis's demeanor changes abruptly. He becomes distant and blunt, instructing Evelyn to attend the party alone and leave his room. On the day of the event, Evelyn reluctantly attends to avoid giving the wrong impression. However, Luna approaches her and inquires about Cassis's absence, just as Marianne arrives. Despite it being their first meeting, Marianne overshares. If I was one of her parents, I'd gladly send this child to the temple to reflect. I have no patience for this child. The conversation takes a turn when Luna and Marianne discuss Cassis, and Marianne recounts witnessing him have a seizure at the Crown Prince's party. Evelyn, taken aback, can hardly believe what she's hearing. Unable to tolerate the disparaging remarks about Cassis, Evelyn impulsively speaks out against the mean-spirited comments, leaving an angry expression on the faces of those around her. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, Cassis is tormented by his actions toward Evelyn. The weight of guilt consumes him as he reflects on how he shouldn't have treated her that way. However, the discussion at the time revolved around a sensitive topic for him: parties. Cassis harbors a disdain for such events, viewing them as arenas where relationships are manipulated among clans. Accustomed to conforming to his parents' advice when choosing a partner, he perceives parties not as joyous occasions, but rather as settings where everyone adheres to a predetermined script. Unlike Cassis, Evelyn appears to take pleasure in attending parties. As he contemplates her, he can't help but perceive her as unusual and distinct from other nobles. In the noble society's usual course, individuals prepare for adulthood by forming connections with those of similar social standing. Often, these relationships are driven by an understanding that alliances in the elite hold a certain degree of power. However, Evelyn seems to lack such friends within her circle. Abruptly, Cassis shakes his head, acknowledging how much he's been preoccupied with thoughts of her. Is it a result of their recent disagreements? He isn't entirely sure. Promptly standing up, he decides to attend the party with the intention of reconciling with her. Go and redeem yourself, Cassis. At the party, Luna and Marianne's faces flush with anger. They can't fathom that Evelyn sided with Cassis and spoke out against their mean-spirited behavior. Incensed, Marianne points at Evelyn's shoulder and seizes her clothes, demanding an explanation for such audacity. Excuse me? Girl, you started it. When faced with the dishonor of her family, Evelyn refuses to stand idly by and allow people to speak ill of them. From the moment Cassis entered their home, he became an integral part of their family. Her parents already regard him as one of their own, and as a result, dishonoring him is equivalent to dishonoring their entire family. For Evelyn, taking a stand against such disrespect is not just a choice. It's a matter of defending the honor and integrity of her family. That's it, girl! Show them who they're messing with! In a steely gaze, Evelyn informs Marianne that even if Cassis isn't a direct member of their family, he still belongs to the Urquio family, holding a much higher social position than theirs. She cautions Marianne to choose her words carefully, as consequences may follow. Marianne, initially taken aback, quickly regains composure, now more incensed than ever. As Evelyn embraces for the expected splash of juice, she closes her eyes, only to find nothing happening. Upon reopening her eyes, she is met with the sight of Cassis's broad back, drenched in grape juice. It becomes apparent that he has shielded Evelyn from Marianne's intended attack. This incident serves as an eye-opener for Evelyn, providing insight into why Cassis despises such gatherings. The way people discuss him as if he is merely a topic for conversation, the backstabbing conversation among guests, it all drives her to the brink of frustration. A surge of panic washes over Evelyn as she sees Cassis and she rushes towards him. To her surprise, she discovers his face and clothes are wet. As she instinctively attempts to wipe it off, a sudden realization hits her. Cassis dislikes being touched. To her amazement, he remains unfazed. Observing Cassis in his damp state, Marianne quickly apologizes, but Cassis dismisses it. He is well aware of what transpired, how they ridiculed him and mistreated Evelyn. His piercing gaze fixates on both of them as he issues a stern warning. They are never to speak ill of or mistreat Evelyn again. She's not someone they can casually gossip about. With that, Cassis firmly takes hold of Evelyn's hand and leads her out of the room. He's literally a knight in shining armor. The words Cassis spoke were familiar to Evelyn. They were in a chapter from the novel. Though she can't recall the exact context, she's certain it's from the book. However, she is perplexed as to why he suddenly chose to utter those specific words to her. Abruptly, Cassis halts their walk and turns to face her, guilt evident in his eyes. He apologizes for his actions, leaving Evelyn stunned. She questions why he's apologizing when she believes it should be her expressing remorse for being unaware of what might transpire. Cassis, understanding that Evelyn couldn't have known, acknowledges that she wasn't present and had no way of anticipating the conversation about him and his condition. Recognizing the changes from the original novel, Evelyn contemplates that it may not be as dire as she initially thought. There's still a chance that she won't follow the same fate as the other Evelyns in different novels, the ones who are despised by Cassis. Recalling the earlier scene, Evelyn can't resist asking Cassis if he truly meant it when he said she had an important family-like existence to him. Cassis momentarily freezes, but a smile gradually forms on his face as he softly affirms, yes. Since that day, Luna and Marianne no longer trouble Evelyn. The events that unfolded were undeniably peculiar and tense, especially considering Cassis's rare smile. Evelyn finds herself blushing at the thought of how handsome he looks when he smiles. Shaking her head, she realizes she's been preoccupied with thoughts of his smile, feeling captivated by him. Her reverie is interrupted when Elisa grabs her attention and shares the news that her brother Alan will be returning. Alan is set to become Cassis's secretary, and as the characters in the novel gradually gather together, the story takes another turn. I have a bad feeling about Elisa. She shouldn't harm our sweet Evelyn, or else I will throw her to the lion's den. At the train station, Elisa, Evelyn, and surprisingly Cassis await the arrival of Alan. To those curious about Cassius's presence, it can be traced back to a week earlier, when Evelyn discussed Alan's upcoming visit for the summer vacation. She enthusiastically described Alan's intelligence, kindness, and various other positive qualities. Evelyn didn't shy away from expressing how handsome Alan is and even mentioned Luna Vanessa's interest in him. The anticipation at the train station builds as they await Alan's arrival. All of a sudden, Cassis asks how she felt towards Alan and if he's as handsome as him. I see what you're doing here, Cassis. Evelyn, in a playful manner, asserts that Cassis is even more handsome than Alan. Intrigued by this statement, Cassis decides to accompany Evelyn to the train station to witness Alan's arrival. As soon as Alan arrives, Elisa rushes towards him, enveloping him in a warm embrace. The evident joy of their reunion is palpable. Clearly, they've missed each other. When Alan's eyes lock onto Evelyn, he greets her warmly and compliments how she has grown up so quickly. However, he quickly becomes aware of the intense gaze fixed upon him. Cassis. The dynamic between the characters becomes intriguing as they navigate the subtle tensions and emotions in the air. I smell jealousy in the air. Despite Alan's greeting, it becomes apparent that Cassis is not in the best of moods. Elisa fills Alan in on the living arrangements, mentioning that Cassis has been residing in Evelyn's house. Unexpectedly, Cassis interjects, revealing that Evelyn's parents treat him as their prospective son-in-law. The revelation takes everyone by surprise, injecting an unexpected twist into the unfolding dynamics among the characters. OMG! I didn't expect that from Cassis! So, when is the wedding ceremony? As Alan dismisses the claim, labeling it as a lie since nobody is aware of such an arrangement, he playfully teases Evelyn about it. However, Elisa, expressing her strong desire for her brother to be Evelyn's husband, becomes visibly upset. Alan too? No way! Cassis and Evelyn are way better together. Cassis freezes. He can't believe what he has heard. Was Alan really going to be Evelyn's husband? Elisa remained grumpy and upset with what Cassis has said, as she strongly desires only Evelyn and her brother to be together. Nevertheless, inexplicable expressions were evident on their faces. Evelyn remains clueless about why Elisa made that statement, while Alan found himself uncertain and confused about what to do next. Aw, don't be discouraged, my boy. All of a sudden, Alan and Elisa's parents arrive, prompting everyone to gather around. Cassis stands at a distance, still processing the indescribable feelings that have unsettled him. Poor Cassis. Days later, savoring the fresh air while spending time in the garden and enjoying tea, Evelyn's mother suddenly captures her attention by inquiring if something happened between her and Cassis. Confused, Evelyn tries to recall any significant events but finds nothing noteworthy. Her mother poses the question due to her observation that Cassis has been unusually subdued in the past few days. Concerned, worry fills Evelyn, prompting her to check on him immediately. Upon reaching Cassis's bedroom, Evelyn finds him asleep. Aware that one of the side effects of his medication is drowsiness, she understands why he didn't respond. As she approaches, she notices he's holding a paper in his hand, a letter addressed to the Duchess. This discovery surprises her, particularly the formal way he addresses his mother as Duchess Urquio instead of using a more familiar term like mother. Later, at the table, Evelyn's curiosity gets the better of her, and she begins reading the letters. Through the contents, she discovers a depth of Cassis's sorrow, realizing how profoundly affected he is by his parents' lack of interest and their failure to visit him since his arrival. The letters provide insight into the emotional struggles Cassis has been silently enduring. I feel disheartened by this. They don't deserve him. Suddenly, Cassis seizes the letter from Evelyn's hand, his anger evident. He is visibly upset by the invasion of his privacy, especially since the letter is intended for his parents. His dislike for others going through his personal belongings fuels his frustration, leading him to shout at Evelyn uncontrollably. The outburst compels her to leave the room in silence, leaving an atmosphere of tension and unresolved emotions. He must have been so hurt and embarrassed that she now knows that aspect of his life. As she glances back at Cassis, guilt begins to consume her. That night, she finds herself trapped, pondering what she should do. It appears she has added to Cassis's distress, and she knows she must apologize. However, facing him is daunting. She is uncertain how to mend things and restore peace between them. This marks the first time she has witnessed Cassis scream in such a way, suggesting that she may have inadvertently touched on a sensitive aspect of his life, intensifying her feelings of remorse. Suddenly, Paul arrives and takes a seat, inquiring if she had an argument with Cassis. She attempts to lie and denies any disagreement, but Paul, being perceptive, sees through her deception. No matter how much she tries to conceal the truth, Paul always manages to discern the reality, leaving her with no alternative. Unexpectedly, Paul opens up to Evelyn about Cassis's heightened sensitivity in recent days. He urges her not to harbor resentment, but rather to empathize with him. Paul highlights that Cassis wasn't always like this. Before the medication, he was a polite and endearing child of Duchess Urquio. Paul had anticipated that Cassis would maintain those qualities as he grew up. The family used to revel in a happy atmosphere, and Cassis was once a source of pride for his parents. However, everything changed, and Cassis transformed into someone entirely different. That must have been very traumatic for Cassis. He's still very young. After Cassis falls ill, he frequently experiences convulsions. While things seem manageable initially, a significant shift occurs when he has a convulsion at the Crown Prince's party. This incident leads to rumors spreading throughout the town. Eventually, he is sent to Evelyn's house, not as a son, but as the future leader of their clan. Despite the concerns for Cassis's well-being, one certainty remains. He will be a great leader, and Evelyn is determined to support him through whatever challenges come their way. Way to go, girl! Evelyn immediately goes to find Cassis upon hearing Paul's story. Finding him in bed, his hunched shoulders suggest he's pretending to sleep. She inches closer, whispering in his ear, causing his cheeks to flush red. Promising to show the black bean as bait, Evelyn teases Cassis about never seeing it, goading him into joining her. Despite Cassis's complaints, he eventually comes around and follows Evelyn. If he can just accept defeat, stop pretending, and admit that he can do anything for his lady, right? Though Cassis claims to have seen it before, his eyes betray his fascination. Enthralled by the miraculous black bean egg, he displays childlike wonder, earning Evelyn's affection for his innocence. Cassis questions the name of the egg. Evelyn then notes the egg's resemblance to a big black bean, hence its name, finding it fitting, even playfully hoping for a response from the silent egg, prompting Cassis to tease her about expecting an answer. Evelyn notices Cassis's rare smile, revealing a hidden dimple. Yes, a dimple! Her admiration prompts a compliment, causing Cassis to shyly turn away, an act that only amplifies Evelyn's fondness for him. God, this little Iceman is getting cuter every day! Considering avoiding close contact to restrain her adoration, Evelyn's plan is halted as Cassis notices her distancing. When she explains her fear of making him uncomfortable, Cassis shyly tells her that it's anything but hate. Cassis shares to her that he just finds it strange and unfamiliar with physical affection due to not being touched by his parents as an infant. As Cassis tells him more about his parents, I can just conclude that it isn't only about his sickness. How can they do that to a child? To their own, even. Shocked by this revelation, Evelyn wants to assure Cassis that her touch won't really upset him. Cassis slowly closes the gap as he reassures her, leading to a prolonged gaze. Cassis's face flushes red, and Evelyn's eyes sparkle like glitter. Stop looking so broodingly handsome, mister! I'm not supposed to be distracted, you know. Suddenly, Evelyn bursts into laughter, the realization dawning on her that by respecting Cassis's boundaries, she could delve deeper into understanding him without encroaching upon his personal space, solidifying their bond. The following day, Montes orchestrates a special event in celebration of the holiday season, renowned for the breathtaking natural beauty that characterized the location. While the site usually attracts tourists during this festive period, today it holds a distinct allure, a spectacular display of the northern lights, the beautiful aurora. Evelyn's father, fully engrossed in preparations, symbolizes the grandeur associated with the momentous occasion. Meanwhile, Evelyn just observes the surroundings, watching her father's orchestration unfold. Amidst the festive atmosphere, Evelyn is intrigued by the treasure hunt. For her, it can be an opportunity to confirm the connection between Elisa and Cassis, a relationship she believes is destined. The prospect of uncovering hidden truths amidst the excitement fueled Evelyn's curiosity, setting the stage for a potentially revealing exploration. Seriously, we're still on this plan of being a love bridge, Evie? As the event unfolds, Evelyn sees it as a pivotal moment in Elisa and Cassis's budding relationship. Lost during the treasure hunt, they stumble upon a serene spot to witness the enchanting aurora together, etching a beautiful memory. Despite her past unsuccessful attempts, Evelyn is determined that this time will be different. She sees the event as a crucial success in uniting Elisa and Cassis, convinced that fate will intervene for them to grow close together. The treasure hunt kicks off with everyone eagerly searching except for Evelyn. Elisa questions their inaction, worried they'll miss out on the treasures. Indeed, everyone's hopping up with sugar. Grabbing Elisa's wrist, Evelyn reveals a wooden box containing a stunning sphere brooch, surprising Elisa, who notes it's not her birthday. Insisting Elisa to wear the talisman for protection, Evelyn explains the brooch's significance. Described as a protective sphere, it is not merely an accessory but a symbol of safeguarding, a potent emblem meant to be worn without interruption. In the original storyline, Elisa had embarked on a treasure hunt, an adventure that took an unexpected turn when she encountered a formidable creature. This was not just any ordinary beast, it proved to be a menacing force that left Elisa with a grievous leg injury. The gravity of that incident is the main reason for Evelyn's heartfelt gesture of bestowing the brooch upon Elisa. So much for a female lead, it's always either a mean stepmom or a ghastly beast. Despite that, Evelyn still remains uneasy. Elisa expresses a desire to reciprocate, a sentiment that Evelyn deems unnecessary. Touched by Elisa's kindness, Evelyn is presented with a 4-leaf clover artfully transformed into a charming ring, a gesture that profoundly moves her. Suddenly, Cassis delicately seizes Evelyn's arm and whispers to her, revealing that he has discovered the treasure from long ago. He encourages her to hasten her pace, injecting a sense of urgency into the unfolding moment. The closeness is too much. I'm having butterflies in my stomach. Elisa intervenes, vying for Evelyn's attention, causing confusion for Evelyn as they vie for her company. Alan then arrives looking for them, and his arrival gives Elisa an idea. Elisa suggests a treasure-finding bet, pairing up with Cassis against Evelyn and her brother Alan, further perplexing Evelyn. Despite the confusion, she goes along, finding the competitive hunt enjoyable. The treasure hunt starts, and as time flies, Evelyn realizes she's lost track of time and her partner. Panicked, she turns, finding herself alone and the sky turning an ominous orange. Regretting her focus on treasure hunting over sticking with Elisa, she starts heading back, but she suddenly trips and falls near a cliff. Meanwhile, Elisa and Cassis notice the changing sky. Elisa questions Cassis about his feelings for Evelyn, citing his constant gaze at her. Unaware of this, Cassis denies it, prompting Elisa to express her desire for Evelyn to marry Alan, hoping they become family. Elisa implores Cassis to recall her heartfelt wish, yet he refuses, leaving her visibly distressed. Suddenly, Alan reunites with them, conspicuously without the presence of Evelyn. Alan asks about Evelyn's whereabouts, surprised she isn't back yet. Cassis grows furious that Alan returned without her and even refuses to trust him to find Evelyn. In a fit of anger, Cassis storms deep into the forest, affirming Elisa's realization of his feelings for Evelyn. Meanwhile, Evelyn regains consciousness on the ground, her body aching, and notices her swollen feet from the fall. Panicking, she calls out for help, fearing her dire situation. Hearing a rustle nearby, she fears it's a wild animal, unable to flee with her injured foot. To her relief, it's a harmless rabbit, providing a brief distraction. Amidst playing with the rabbit, she hears her name called and recognizes Cassis's voice. Her Prince Charming. Responding immediately, she witnesses Cassis rushing to her side, sweat on his brow. Overwhelmed with joy at seeing a familiar face, Evelyn cries. Cassis notices her injuries and scolds her for her recklessness, thinking she knew the area well. Seriously, Cassis only knows tough love. Performing first aid, Cassis's caring demeanor brings tears to Evelyn's eyes. He teasingly wipes her dirty face, expressing concern. Offering support, Evelyn declines Cassis's offer to carry her, but he insists, carrying her despite her protests. However, their departure is interrupted as the cute rabbit transforms into a menacing beast. Elisa arrives, unaware of the danger. As the beast charges towards Elisa, a light envelops her. At the time, Evelyn recalls the brooch's protective powers, urging Cassis to get near Elisa for safety. They rush, but the beast strikes them, sending Evelyn flying. Seeing Cassis in peril, she moves closer, noticing his intent to use his powers against the beast. Despite her efforts to stop him, Cassis urges her to run, aware of the beast closing in on them. As the beast approaches, Evelyn, realizing escape is futile, instinctively embraces Cassis and a brilliant light engulfs them. After a moment, Evelyn reopens her eyes to the radiant glow coming from her. The ghastly beast now appears subdued. Cassis attempts communication with the creature, leading it to transform slowly into the beloved rabbit Evelyn first encountered. Puzzled by this sudden transformation, Evelyn watches as the rabbit, now back to its smaller form, seems to heed her command when she speaks, halting its charge. A newfound understanding dawns on her as she notices a gold necklace adorning the rabbit's neck, seemingly appearing out of nowhere. Unsure if it's the necklace or her words that hold sway, Evelyn experiments with commanding the beast-turned-rabbit, discovering its obedience to her commands. Elisa rushes to Evelyn's side, embracing her tightly out of concern. Realizing Evelyn's familiarity with frightening occurrences, Elisa checks on her and turns to Cassis, finding him severely injured. Guilt consumes Evelyn as she witnesses Cassis's struggle to remain conscious. She blames herself for potentially causing harm to him and dreads making another mistake. Seeing Evelyn in distress, Elisa calls for help, and soon people arrive with lanterns in search of them. Paul rushes to Cassis's aid, while Elisa notices Evelyn slipping into unconsciousness. As Evelyn drifts away, she glimpses her worried parents by her side, her mother visibly relieved as she wakes. Sensing an odd sensation with her, Evelyn's discomfort alarms her father, prompting him to seek medical assistance despite the doctor confirming her treatment was successful. The doctor suspects a problem on another front, suggesting they consult a priest to verify Evelyn's condition. Perhaps it is because of what happened yesterday with their encounter of the beast. The priest discerns a formidable force draining Evelyn's strength, attributing it to the beast, now a rabbit, Evelyn must locate urgently. To her surprise, the rabbit is found in their garden, seemingly having followed her to the palace. Examining the beast, the priest confirms its existence, astonishing everyone with such a creature in Montes. The priest elaborates on the beast being close to a newborn, possibly gaining strength by consuming excess mana. Evelyn ponders if Cassis' low mana absorption inadvertently affected the rabbit, leading to her unintentional contract with the divine power residing in the golden necklace. The revelation of possessing divine power shocks those present, particularly linked to the beast through the golden necklace, referred to as a ghost messenger, a divine chain forged from a contract. I knew it, but what contract? Ugh, my head hurts from all the mana talk. Overwhelmed, Evelyn grapples with the knowledge that in a dire situation, she unknowingly forged a bond with the beast, becoming unwittingly reliant on it. She grapples with the realization that this divine magic could have proved fatal under normal circumstances, a stark contrast to her self-image as a mere villainess from childhood. Evelyn now struggles to reconcile her newfound identity with the contents of an unfamiliar, unread novel. Concerned for their daughter's well-being, Evelyn's parents seek guidance from the priest. Two potential solutions are presented. The first entails eliminating the magical beast to break the mystical contract. Despite the Count's urgency to proceed with this plan, Evelyn hesitates. Her gaze lingers on the caged creature, perceived by others as nothing more than a harmless rabbit. As preparations are made to execute the initial method, Evelyn intervenes. Eager to explore the second option, she steps forward, determined to pursue an alternative path. What a relief! This second method entails purifying the beast with holy water and subsequently taming it. Taming necessitates naming the creature, solidifying the contract and ending Evelyn's dependence on the divine power. How about Fluffy or Red Eyes? Isn't it cute? The priest explains the intricacies and expenses involved, prompting doubts about his priestly nature in Evelyn's mind. Her thoughts gravitate towards Cassis, prompting her to seek him out. Discovering Cassis in a state of restless slumber and evident pain, Paul delivers the distressing news to Evelyn. Cassis' injuries are far graver than initially presumed. Despite enduring multiple broken bones, Cassis remains conscious, his inquiries repeatedly circling back to Evelyn's condition, showcasing a genuine concern even in his fragile state. Evelyn then finds herself pondering Cassis' unwavering worry for others amidst his own considerable suffering. She perceives this as a significant emotional gain for herself, yet unexpectedly finds her emotions entangled in an unexpected wave of emotion. Overwhelmed by conflicting feelings, she offers a silent prayer for Cassis' recovery, grappling with the intricacies of her emotions in the midst of this unexpected turn of events. The next morning, Cassis awakens, his condition showing a slight improvement. Without delay, he inquires about Evelyn's well-being, revealing a subtle undercurrent of loneliness in her absence. Concerned about Cassis' sense of isolation, Paul attempts to provide reassurance, acknowledging Evelyn's own sadness at being unable to visit him. Upon discovering that Evelyn has been earnestly praying for his recovery, Cassis finds unexpected solace in her thoughtful gesture. In this moment, he realizes the true value of their friendship. Despite the physical discomfort he endures, Cassis grapples with a newfound emotional void within himself. He contemplates the nature of his interactions with Evelyn and wrestles with the idea of being more than just friends, stirring an unfamiliar unease within him. It's a bright sunny day, sunlight filtering through the leaves and casting hues through the stained glass windows of the temple. Accompanied by her mother, Evelyn arrives at the sanctum for her magic purification. Inside, the cardinal awaits for their arrival. Evelyn, observing the overly friendly ambiance of the place, can't help but remark on it. In a gesture of respect, Evelyn greets the Yeha. However, in a departure from the usual formalities, he insists that she simply call him Antonio, asserting that they will be encountering each other frequently. Evelyn, taken aback by His Highness's unexpected kindness, finds herself feeling a subtle pressure in the face of such warm familiarity. Instructed to place her hands in a basin, a holy relic that determines one's divine power, Evelyn marvels at the process. The water's rise indicates the level of divine power. Those who are born with divine power will have their power tested in the sanctum. Depending on the degree of his power, he walks the path of a priest. As she dips her hands, the water almost overflows before the cardinal abruptly removes her from the basin, expressing concern about her potent divine power. Does it mean she's really a fairy? Or a saint, perhaps? Confused by the sudden interruption, Evelyn's purification ends prematurely. Exiting, she notices the rabbit, now damp from the holy water bath. Jokingly, she asks it if it enjoyed the bath, finding the creature adorable despite its demonic nature. The rabbit jumps at her, seemingly complaining about where she has been. What happened to this rabbit? It seems like it came from a tedious activity. Prompted by the priest, Evelyn hasn't named the rabbit yet. Evelyn remembers that the rabbit ate a lot of carrots on their way there. After suggesting carrot, due to its love for carrots, the rabbit reacts negatively. Gazing into its red eyes, its cute little paws and smooth face, Evelyn settles on a name that seems fitting. The priest tells Evelyn if she has decided on a name, she can step up to the saintess statue. She then approaches the statue of Saint Lena, a renowned saint and former empress known for her foresight and divine power. Evelyn stares at the saintess's beauty and realizes that since then, she became more famous as a saint who rose to the position of empress. The priest offers prayer, seeking blessings for the special soul to begin anew. Evelyn is directed to call the animal by its name with her divine power. Initially unsure how to channel her divine power into words, the priest guides her. Summoning the rabbit by the chosen name Ruby, a radiant glow envelops the creature, the name embedding into its golden necklace. With this, the rabbit ceases to indiscriminately absorb divine power. How can this demon resonate such a beautiful and magical shot? Despite wielding divine abilities, Evelyn humbly acknowledges her need for guidance, recognizing her inexperience in handling these newfound powers. After a dedicated month of training, she returns home, her thoughts immediately gravitating towards Cassis, pondering over his well-being. The passage of time seems swift, and upon her return, her primary concern revolves around Cassis, whom she hasn't encountered for an extended period. The lingering absence fuels a growing curiosity and concern, adding a layer of anticipation to her homecoming. Finally back home, Evelyn is warmly greeted by everyone in the palace after her prolonged absence. Eager to reconnect with the daily affairs of the household during her time away, she makes rounds to check on the well-being of each member. The maid, expressing genuine sentiments, conveys how much they missed Evelyn's presence throughout her absence. The reunion is not only marked by joy, but also by the realization of the impact of Evelyn's presence on the overall atmosphere of the palace. Suddenly, a call from Cassis reaches her, and she notices his improved but still limp leg. Still handsome as ever. Overwhelmed by his concern, Cassis rushes in for a hug, catching Evelyn off guard. He whispers into her ears how worried he was. Reciprocating the embrace, she senses his heartbeat stronger than before, though she attributes it to the recent attack's impact. These two, are they just too dense or what? They should just be together for the love of God. Seeing his crutch on the ground, she worries about his injury, attempting to guide him to sit. But Cassis requests a little more time in her embrace, not minding the stares. Perplexed, Evelyn jests about the duration of their hug, prompting Cassis to apologize and express his relief at seeing her. Evelyn thinks something must have happened to him while she was not around. It's been a long time since she last saw Cassis, but he seems a little different. Amidst the emotional moment, a tearful Elisa rushes towards Evelyn for a heartfelt hug, contributing to the prevailing end of embraces. In that instant, Evelyn experiences a sense of renewal, as if she has metaphorically resurrected from the dead. Elisa, overcome with emotion, shares her feelings of guilt for receiving such unwavering protection from Evelyn. In response, Evelyn reassures Elisa about the mystical properties of the brooch, emphasizing its genuine purpose to safeguard those she cares about. Also, Evelyn extends her consoling words to Alan, who appears burdened with guilt despite Elisa getting lost on her own. In an attempt to lighten the mood, Evelyn injects a touch of humor into the conversation. Playfully, she requests Alan for books on errand demons and dragons, eliciting a confused yet obliging response from him. Amidst the conversation, Evelyn reveals her newfound divine power and introduces Ruby, her errand demon, to the surprise group, who are smitten by its adorable appearance. Ruby is really adorable. I just want to put it in my pocket to keep. Elisa panics at the revelation of Ruby's nature, a monstrous demon, throwing it in the air, causing Evelyn to catch it, consoling her friend about the harmless creature. As they discuss Evelyn's absence and divine power, Alan praises her, envisioning her as the future head of the Empire, contemplating his role as Cassius's future secretary. After an engaging talk, Cassis calls Evelyn for dessert. Excitedly heading to the table, she expresses her anticipation due to low blood sugar. What? However, Cassis appears puzzled by her comment. After savoring her cake, Cassis offers her more, noting her enjoyment. Observing Cassis's unusual demeanor after her return from the temple, Evelyn affectionately strokes his hair, encouraging him to eat and regain health to return to the capital. However, Cassis remains visibly discontent, his unhappiness lingering despite Evelyn's efforts to comfort him. So guys, what do you think of this story so far? Please subscribe and turn on notifications for updates on this and all our other stories, so you can be the first to find out when they're out. Thank you so much for your support. See you in the next one!